The next few Mishnayos, the next blot has a few Mishnayos on it. I think they're really all like the same Mishnayos. It's a Hemshech, but the Gemara just interjects the explanation as it goes along. You'll see it's all like one long story. So we're at the Mishnah on the top of Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. Hamaycher es hachotzer. This is really a continuation of the previous Mishnah. The Mishnah had said someone who sold a house, what's included with the house? Now we're talking about someone who sells a courtyard. So courtyard chotzer is obviously a term of art from the time of the Mishnayos, where they would have houses within a courtyard. So one wealthy guy owned the entire courtyard. The Mishnah says, Machar Batim, he sells the houses, and Bayris Sichan Amaris. He also includes the Bayris Sichan Amaris. Obviously, the larger the thing that you're selling, the more inclusive it is. So if you, if you sell a sailboat, you sell a rowboat, it doesn't come with a refrigerator or whatever's in it. It's just there, just a rowboat. But if you buy a cruise ship, there's a lot more included in it. So that's the difference between a chotzer and a bias. We said a bias doesn't include the Bayris Sichan Amaris. The way we describe it is because it's a separate entity, but it's a separate entity from a house. If you could use it to make money, you use it to distribute water to other people. But if you're selling an entire chotzer, the Bayris Sichan Amaris, these different types of pits that hold water are included. Avaloyas and metaltalin.
I'm sorry, what were we up to?
And the Mishnah on the top of Samach Zayin Amud Aleph.
I'm sorry, again, wasn't which off?
Samach Zayin Amud Aleph.
Thank you.
So, Avaloyas and metaltalin, it doesn't include metaltalin, it doesn't include things that are not kavua and that are not fixed to the ground, that they could be moved. Bismanshus, I mean, by a house, Bayris Sichan Amaris were not included, even though they were also affixed to the ground. Now we're saying the things that are excluded are things that are literally not attached. However, if the seller of the chotzer said, I'm selling it together with all that's inside of it, then even the metaltalin are included. However, even if you said, you included the metaltalin, it doesn't include a bathhouse and not a olive press, even though it's in the chotzer, because that's a separate enterprise. It's not necessarily part of the chotzer. The chotzer means the chotzer and its houses and the metaltalin. But if you say komash or seicha, but these are entirely separate things. Belazar disagrees with the entire proposition of the Tanakama. It's interesting. When you have Rabbi Belazar being chaylik, sometimes he's machmer and sometimes he's mekel. Over here, he's saying he's going to the benefit of the meicher. He's saying all he sells is the open areas. When you sell a chatzar, you mean literally the courtyard, the yard, but you don't include even the houses. Nothing else is included. So this is all going according to the Tanakhama, not like Rabbi Elazar. When you sell a chatzar, it includes both the outside houses and the inside houses, meaning these are apartments. So you'd have sometimes a house that opens directly into the chatzar, and then you'd have another apartment behind it that had to go through the outside house to get into the chatzar. And the point is, anything that's open into the chatzar, whether through another house or directly, is considered part of the chatzar, as well as ubeis hachulsois, as well as the beis hachulsois. So Rashi teaches that as a place. The Rashbam says it's a place that has sand. So it's essentially a beach. Someone who sold the chatzar, and part of the chatzar was on the riverbank. So as we'll see later in the Gemara, this was the chatzar was near a river or included a river. So there was a beach area that they'd use to take sand and make glass. Chanuyos psuchos l'soicha nimkaras ima. A store that opens into the chatzar is sold together with the chatzar. Even though we said before that a beis habad and the beis hamechatz, which are independent establishments, are not included with the sale of the chutzner. But this store that opens into the chutzner, it's like if those of you who have been, maybe Dovi would know what I'm talking about. If you're in like Greenwald's bungalow colony, they have like a little. I remember back in the day, there was like a little store, just basically had milk and flour and eggs for the people in the bungalow colony. It was the same thing. It was a store that was made just for the residents of the chutzner. So that is sold together with the chutzner. It's part of the chutzner. If you have like scops over there, that it's a massive supermarket and it just has the name, but it's across the street and 90% of the people are coming from other places, einim karas ima. It's not sold together with the chutzner. Psuchas lakan lakan. What if it's a store that's on the edge of the chutzner? So it has a door going into the chutzner and people use it from the chutzner, but it's also open to the outside. Hare elu, you have to change the lashon, even though it says elu ve'elu, the Meseres Shas and the Bach will change it. Hare elu nimkaras ima. It's sold together with the chutzner. This is the end of the brisa. He says when you sell the chutzner, you're only selling, like we said in our Mishnah, you're only selling the avir of the chutzner, meaning only the open spaces. It's not including any structures, which is the same.
Why is a store that are being used by both, meaning the people in the chutzner and outside people, different than like a merchatz, which is being used by both?
No, because it's used by the people inside. We'll see. We'll clarify in a minute that this store that's open into both, it depends where most of the traffic is. If most of the traffic is on the inside, then it's considered like a store that's an internal store. If most of it's to the outside, it's considered like an external. So that will, I think, answer your question.
Yes.
Amar Mar, Psuchas Lakana Lakanim Karas Ima, Vatani Rav Chia Enim Karas Ima. Rav Chia has exactly the opposite. That one that's open in both directions is not sold together with the chutzner. So Malikasha Hadarav Tashmishayu Legav, Hadarav Tashmishayu Lebar. Well, it depends on whether most of its use is to the outside or the inside. If it's to the outside, then it's not sold with the chutzner. If it's to the inside, then it is sold with the chutzner. Then at the end, we said Rabbi Elazar shita. Rabbi Elazar, someone who sells the chutzner only sells the space of the chutzner, not the structures. Amar Rava, Ida Amala le dirasa dirsa. So there's three possible lashonos that could be used to describe a chutzner in Bava. One was dira. One is darsa, one is dirsa, and one is chutzner. So dirsa, dirsa is the most obviously dirsa sounds like a dira, so it sounds most like we're talking about residences. Darsa is sounds less like a residence, and chutzner doesn't have a reference to a residence at all. So Rabba says, Amar Rabba, ki Amar la dirsa. We said I'm selling you this dirsa. So this is the most residence-like lashon of a chutzner. The kuli Amar la pligi debati mashma. Certainly, Rabba says everyone would agree that that's referring to including the houses. Where's the machlekes between Rebbe Elazar and the Tanna Kama in our Mishnah? Rebbe Elazar says it's not talking about the houses, and Tanna Kama says it is talking about the houses. Darsa. Darsa is mashma a little bit less like a dira. So that's where Rebbe Elazar disagrees and says that it's not. Mar Sava Tarbitza mashma or Mar Sava Bati mashma. The Rebbe Elazar says it's mashma the open space, and the other mandamar, the Tanna Kama holds, it means the houses. Ikad Amri, there's another version of this, Amar Rava, Ida Amala Darsa, if he said Darsa, everyone would agree that it's Bati. And certainly if he said Dirsa, which is even more like a Dir. Keep Pli, where's the Machlekes in our Mishnah? Amalei Chatzar, which is the lashon that we actually have in our Mishnah. He said Chatzar, Ma'asav Chatzar Avir Mashma, Rebbe Elazar holds Chatzar means an Avir, meaning the open space, or Ma'asav Chatzar HaMishkan. The other Mandam says it's like the Chatzar HaMishkan, which the Chatzar HaMishkan, even though we call it a Chatzar, included the whole the entire Beis Hamikdash inside of it. It's certainly considered part of it. But Amar Rav Nachman, Machaloi Chosesu Metzula. So we had in the Mishnah, we said this. I'm sorry. We said in the Mishnah. I'm sorry, it wasn't in the Mishnah, it was in the Brisa. Right, it was in the Brisa. We said, which the Rashbam explained to mean the sandy beach, where they got sand for glass. So if he sold him a cholsa, the beach, umetzula, and the riverbed was used for mining, for getting gold and silver. If you make a chazak in the chosis, if someone sold these two things, if he makes a chazak in one in order to make a kinyan chazak, and we're not talking about the chazak of Shoshanim, we're not talking about either as I think the Rashbam explains, we're not talking about the kinyan of a ger, we're talking about a kinyan of selling. So if you make a chazak in one, in the chosis, in the sandy area, you're not kind of the riverbed that's right near it. And not vice versa. If someone sold 10 fields in 10 different places, you'd be kind of 10 fields in 10 different places just by making chazak in any one of them. So why should the riverbed and the beach that are right next to each other, why should there be any difference? So Gemara, Hasahu decided the Arachadu, the Kulachad Tashmishta. You say buy 10 fields and 10 medinas. First of all, they're all attached, which is really true. To a large extent, true of a riverbed and a sandy beach. But there seems to be mashmayis that they're different types of areas, so they're not considered to be attached. But the second point is an even stronger point. All the sadis are basically the same idea. You grow things on them. The riverbed is used for mining. You try to find gold nuggets in it, like in 1849, and the beach is used to harvest, to take sand and make into glass. So entirely different types of tashmishin. You can't be kind of one together with the other. The Ikadamri, Amar Rabba, Amar Rav Nachman, Higzik b'chosus kana mitzula. If someone makes a chazaka in the beach, he is kind of the riverbed. Pshita. The Amar Shmuel, Machleas Sadais, like we just said, l'chayr, it's the same thing that you could always be kind of one sada together with another sada, making chazak in one, even if they're not attached. So I might have thought to be mechalet that over there they're all the same. That even so, you can be kind of chazaka, the riverbed, the beach, or the beach, the riverbed, vice versa. Either way, it is a kid. Zak the Mishnah. Hamoicher beis habad, someone who sold an olive press. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit of how a beis habad was constructed. It had basically 3 separate processes for squeezing the olives. One was like in a mortar and pestle type of thing, where you just put it into a depression in the ground or the plea and smash it. Then there was a mill that you twist one mill, you turn around the mill on top of the olives, and then finally there was the olive press, which was like a screw contraption that pushed the kaira down and squeezed them to get everything out. So hamoicher beis habad, someone who sold olive press, meaning the whole entire enterprise. Machar es hayam, he sells the receptacle or the hole that the vessel that would capture the olives at the end, the olive oil at the end. There's hamamal, and he also sells the mamal, which is, the Gemara is going to explain what it means, but it's essentially this, well, we discussed that there's 3 parts of it. So this is the thing that was used to, something with a hole, a stone with a hole, that like a mortar, that you take a pestle and smash the olives in it. The psulas, the Gemara is going to explain this also. These are 2 sticks. This is a different part of the olive press, the final thing where you would have a screw that would push a big screw that would push the beam down onto the olives. So there were two beams on the side that would hold up the screw to push down the kaira. So all these things are fixed in place and they're part of the olive press. Avaloi machar es ha'avirim. He doesn't sell the boards. These are talking about also part of the final process. When you would squeeze down with the kaira, they would put boards on top of the olives to spread out the force of the kaira on all of the olives. Ves hagalgal, the galgal is the screw. I think that's what it is. Ves, that was used to push down the beam. Ves hakaira, and the beam itself. All these things are metaltalin. They could be moved from one olive press to the other. I guess maybe they were replaceable. So they're not attached, so therefore they're not included. But if he makes a more expansive language, he says, I'm selling you the olive press and everything inside of it, these are all included. Blazo over here is machmer. He has a more expansive version, unlike before, he has a more restrictive version. He says, no, you said the kaira is not included, since the Gemara is going to explain all the way at the end, before the next Mishnah, that he holds that since the kaira is the main part of a olive press, so even though it's not attached, that's what the person is referring to. When he says, I'm selling an olive press, he means the most important, most central part of the olive press. Zok the Gemara. Yam, what is a yam? Talfacha. It's like we said, the vessel into which the olive oil goes. Mamel, Amar Baba Mamel, Mefarchasa. It's the mortar into which you crush the olives. It's these two pillars of cedar, strong sticks, and you use that to hold up the screw, actually a cross beam that you'd put the screw through, and then the screw would go down onto the kaira. Avirim kifshi, and the avirim are boards, like we said, that you'd put underneath the kaira. Galgal chumras, and the galgal is the screw that pushes down the kaira. Kaira is a kaira. Tan Rabbana moicha beis habad machar es nesarim. We have a second brisa. We have a brisa on this. Someone who sells the beis habad machas nesarim. He sells the boards. Now in our Mishnah we said you don't sell loy machar es havirim, which we translated as Rashi, Rashbam translated as nesarim, boards that go underneath the kaira. But this nesarim is talking about different boards. These are boards that are placed around the area where the olives are being crushed to keep them from spreading out and falling out. So that is sold, because I guess it's fixed and placed. The S hayikavim, as well as the kavim, which are another word for what was it? The yam, for the vessel that catches the olive oil. Ves hamefarchos, which is the taich that we had given before for mamel, meaning the thing used to crush it, the mortar. Ves harichayim hatachtoides. Also, like we said, there was a third. We haven't mentioned it till this point, but there was a mill that was used to also crush the olive. So the bottom part of that mill, but not the top part. It was something that you'd physically turn around on top of the olives, not with a screw, just directly. So that the bottom part is fixed in the ground, the top is not. So therefore, only the bottom top is sold with the beis habad. But if he said all these things that we just said are metaltalin, therefore not included, they are nevertheless included. In either case, means whether he said it doesn't include the boards, meaning these are so it's hard to understand. Our Mishnah had said that the nesarim are included, and now we're saying that you don't sell these nesarim. So l'chayr is talking about the ones that we said in the brisa. The nesarim are either this brisa has been chaylik on the Mishnah and saying that even though we said that the boards are sold, meaning the boards that go around the press, now we're saying the avirim, meaning the boards that were put underneath the kaira, those are not sold, even if you say kol masha b'soicha, which has been chaylik on the Mishnah. Sakin are fiber sacks, and matzufim are leather sacks. So these are things used to hold the olives, so they're very unconnected with the process of pressing the olive, so they're considered like a commodity that is not included. Now we're going back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah, in the Mishnah, he said he was chaylik, and he said even though the Tanakama said it doesn't include the kaira because it's metaltalin, we're saying he says it doesn't include the kaira shalanika beis abad el al shem kaira. The reason why it's called the beis abad is because it has the it has a kaira in it. That's the only reason. Zok the Mishnah. Hamoicheres hamerchatz or beis merchatz. What is the gimel? Put down already. Someone who sold a bathhouse. It doesn't include the boards that people step on when they go into the hot water area, and not the things that they use to hold the hot water. Which Rashbam has a different girsa of viliyos. And he says those are either the curtains that separate the different parts of the base of the base hamerchatz from others, from the inside part where people are bathing from the outside, or it means towels. These things, even though they're not sold at the base hamerchatz normally, but if he says kol masha b'soicha, they are included. Benkach u benkach, but in either case, whether he said kol masha b'soicha, it doesn't include. Even if you said kol masha b'soicha, it doesn't include the place where you keep the water, the storage of the water, and not the place where you keep the eitzim. Those are used for other purposes. A person could use water and wood for his own private purposes. So even though it's next to the beis hamerchatz, it's also used for residential purposes, not necessarily included. Tanarabban, hamoiches hamerchatz machar beis hanesarim beis hayikman includes the place where he keeps these boards. These are like the different closets, the storage closets for those metaltalin that we had said before are not sold, but the places where you keep them, he had like different lockers for them, those are sold. So machar beis hanesarim, he keeps where the boards that people step on, beis hayikman, the basins that they used to hold the water, beis hasvolin, and the what was the swollen again? No, so the swollen are the metaltal, are the things that hold the water. What was yikman? It's either where they keep the barrels, or it's a place where they keep the turbans. I'm sorry, like these hats. They use like, after the women come out of the shower, they have to wrap up the hair with a towel. So they had special towels to wrap around their head. So whether it was to store the boards that they stepped on, or the yikman, which are these towels that they wrapped around the head, or the basins that they put the water in, beis havilois, which is the same thing as the havlunios that we had in the Mishnah, the towels or the curtains. So all these storage places are sold with the beis hamerchatz. The law of Eloi as Nisarim Atzman, not the actual Nisarim, not the actual boards, Eloi Yikman, and not the head coverings, Atzman, Eloi Sfalin Atzman, not the basins, Eloi Vilois Atzman, not the towels or the curtains. If he says everything, including everything that's in it, then it is also. Benkach or benkach. But in either case, Loi Machaloyas Habrichos, Hamesavgas Loi Mayim, in either case, he doesn't sell to him the vats that hold the water, baby baby whether he sells it during the Maisachama or the Maisachshama. During the Maisachama, these are dry. So one might say, since they're dry, there's no water in it. The water is used for other purposes. But if it's just holding it, but there's nothing in it, maybe it's not that important. Maybe you say it's sold together with the beis hamerchatz. So even so, it's not sold. Loy beis kinus eitzim, and not the place where you store the wood. Like we said, because the water and the wood have other purposes. If he says it even more inclusive lashon, he didn't say kol masha b'seich. He said kol tashmisha, all the appurtenances, kula mechur. Then they're all sold together. Hitaka said, I'm selling a Beis Habad, and he used this ultra-inclusive lashon that would even include the places where you store the water and the wood. Havi Hanu Chanusa of Roy, he had these stores that were used, that went to the outside and were used as stores for other purposes. But he would, this is an olive press, right? That he was selling. And he would sometimes, they would press sesames. They would also use it to dry out the sesame seeds before they pressed them. So this store, although its primary use, it seems to be, was to the outside, it was also used sometimes for the Beis Habad. Also in Kamei Rav Yosef, they came to Rav Yosef, they said, is this Chanus, is this store also included in the sale of the Beis Habad? If you have something, just like we said, that if you have a storehouse of water and wood that is sometimes used for an outside purpose and sometimes used for the Beis HaMerchatz, if you say the lashon of Tashmisha, which is very inclusive, it's included. So the same thing would be with this Chanus, which is sometimes used for to dry the shumshim and for the Beis Habad, and sometimes used in a regular store. It should also be sold because you use the lashon Tashmisha. Rav Chia Paskin, he learned that it's not machur together. So how do you explain this? We added on this extra lashon, which you've had before. This is a very buyer-friendly lashon where he says, I'm selling you everything including it and everything within these boundaries. So we had this lashon as far as when we were talking about which boundaries, where the boundaries go up to, does it include even those things that other sadas that are within the boundaries. So if he said that, then it's kind of be loy, but if he doesn't say that, he's not kind of. So the whole din that we said before, that you kind of the base ha'etzim and the base ha'mayim is only when he said olam matzor nasa. But if he doesn't say that lashon, that's not enough for it to be sold. Okay, we'll stop over here. We'll continue tomorrow at 8:30.
Thank you.